And we are online.
So, moon show time. Yeah.
Hello, I warmly welcome you to our 18th webinar by the Academy of Space Renaissance International. Today we became adult because it's the 18th webinar. My name is Sabine Heinz and I'm the person responsible for our webinar series, and I'm one of the vice presidents for the SRI and also responsible for our art chapter. On this 2nd of May, I'm really delighted that you have come to join us, and I'm really delighted that we have a really nice special guest. Today, I warmly welcome Professor Johann-Dietrich Wörner, former Director General of the European Space Agency. Welcome.
Hello, good evening.
And I also, Jan Wörner will talk about his vision for civilian space development. And the topic is not going back, but going forward to the moon. So, and I also would like to welcome Bernard Foing, our president. Hello, Bernard.
Hello, so welcome to the moon with Professor Jan Wörner. So I had a big pleasure to have him here today to the Space Renaissance webinar, as actually I worked for Professor Wörner for 5 years when he was Director General of ESA, and he in various functions, even as his advisor. And he is a big promoter of a moon village and forward to the moon. He has also accomplished a number of exploits in getting support from member states to develop the ESA program and also broaden the inspiration beyond the space world. And he has moved also to a very interesting initiative that he will be able to share to the moon and also on Earth. So welcome, Professor Wörner.
And I also would like to welcome Adriano Ottino. I forgot to mention that Bernard Foing is our president. Sorry.
Oh, you said it. You said
yeah,
it.
I said it. Okay, and I also would like to.
Yeah, I think. So.
I also would like to welcome Adriano Ottino. He is one of our vice presidents, and he is our former president and one of the founders of SRI. Welcome, Adriano.
Thank you very much, Sabine, and very welcome to Jan and for this lecture that I am very eager to attend.
Before I give you the floor, Professor Wörner, I would like to introduce you to our audience. Professor Johann-Dietrich Wörner, or Jan Wörner, called Jan Wörner mostly, was born on July 18, 1954 in Kassel.
Like John Glenn, and Richard Branson. Richard Branson is also 18th of July. So that's all. That's enough of introduction.
All famous people, I guess.
No, but that's enough for introduction, Sabine.
Yeah, but let me say some words too. And he's a German civil engineer, a university professor, and former president of the Technical University of Darmstadt. He served as chairman of the executive board of the German Aerospace Center DLR from March 2007 to June 2015. And on July 15th, he succeeded Jean-Jacques Dordain as Director General of the European Space Agency. And in 2016, Professor Wörner proposed the concept of a moon village. And nowadays, among other functions, he is the president of the Academy of Science and Engineering, ACATEC. So, Jan, the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. So I would like to share my screen. And the most important thing is, I would like to share it also with sound. I hope it's working. But normally it does. So I hope that you can see now my presentation. Is it okay for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we can see it.
So not going back, but going forward to the moon is the motto and the theme of my lecture. And this is the list Adriano sent to me. So Adriano, I hope you remember what you wrote to me, what I should answer. I should answer all these questions. So it will take something like 3 to 4 hours. But you have time, as you told me. So we will go through all these questions, but not one by one, but you will see at the end of my talk that I answered all of them, maybe in a very special way. First of all, we have, and this for me is very important, all the ones who are doing something in space, we should look to a more global perspective of our tiny blue dot. There are global challenges in our world. You might say this is not the right order of challenges. Each and everyone has its own order, and there is no numbering in this order. So each and everyone can decide. But what is very clear for me, we need global cooperation for all of these. And their space has really an important aspect. And we know that there are also some special conflicts in the world. So one was already the trade conflict between China and United States of America, but there are more. And therefore, the UN, the United Nations, decided what they call the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. And when I looked in these 17 development goals, sustainable development goals, I always thought there is one missing. And I said that already years ago. And now I feel that everybody can understand that the 18th should be migration. So we have to do something for the people who are who have to leave their country, whatever the reason is. Space is, and you know the song of Simon and Garfunkel, space can be a bridge over troubled water. I'm a civil engineer, as it was said in the introduction, and as a civil engineer, I can build bridges, and I can tell you I can build bridges which are stronger than this one. And therefore, space as a bridge over troubled water is not as strong as it should be. And coming to this, we also have to have some other final points before we enter into all these space activities, and this is competition. Competition is a driver, and it's good. Competition is a good thing. It gives us really the drive to do things other people are not doing, or do they faster than others. So, for instance, running. But at the same time, besides competition, there is cooperation, and cooperation is an enabler to do things which we cannot do alone. Now, the main question for me was always and is still, and we have to answer it, why to do space? What is the reason? Because do we not have enough problems on Earth? This is one of the questions. Do we not have enough issues on Earth with health and with hunger and all of this? So is it really okay to go in space? And here you see a long list of why to go to space flights. And you see that two of them I put with a question mark. And that means these maybe in some countries, maybe also reasons, but not in the other ones. Discovery is for sure something which is in our DNA. Science is something we would like to do, Earth observation, and so on and so on. But look, there are also other aspects like geopolitical effects and also inspiration. And I will come to one or the other within my talk. So what is clear for me, the grand challenges of space activities are transportation and commercialization. And I will show also some of the thinking in this direction. Now, I was talking already about the conflict, the trade conflict between China and the US, but we know in 2014 we had the Crimea conflict, and it was in 2014 that I was asked and invited to go to Baikonur to see a European astronaut launched from the launch pad, and it was Alexander Gerst. And I was very afraid before because I thought the sanctions might not allow me to go to Kazakhstan and all of this. But it was a perfect meeting. We had a meeting with the Russian colleagues, with the American colleagues, with the European colleagues. And you see in the face of these astronauts and cosmonauts that they are really looking forward to fly together and not against. And what they did is, of course, they were flying to the International Space Station, which is a very big installation, a very nice installation, supported by NASA, Roscosmos, JAXA, ESA, and the Canadian Space Agency. And when astronauts are talking about space, they always tell us they don't see any borders from space. So Europe from space is borderless. And this is not only Europe, the world is more or less borderless. There are only a few borders you can see from space. And therefore my dream was, when I had all of this, when I experienced all of this, also with the Crimea conflict, I thought, okay, maybe the future is a united space in Europe and even more. Now, what happened was after 2014, 2022, the Ukraine war, you know about it. And as I'm a member of president of a German academy, we immediately reacted on that. We concluded that there is, of course, sympathy and solidarity to the people, but at the same time, we have to look forward. And this means security, resilience, and sustainability. And of course, unfortunately, this time, space was not really a bridge over troubled water. So far, we got a big number of missions which were canceled. For instance, the second part of the ExoMars mission will not happen. And also now, this is unfortunately in German, but the Russians said that they might even considering deorbiting the space station, which I believe will not happen. So we had strong effects from this very aggressive war in the Ukraine. And you know also this picture, and I have my own interpretation. So it's not about solidarity with the Ukraine, and it's not by accident that they have yellow suits, and it's not because of the logo of the TU Moscow. I believe there is a clear message in this, but we can have a discussion about that later on. So again, consternation, sympathy, and solidarity was our reaction, but at the same time, looking forward to security, resilience, and sustainability. And this means what we have to do, and space has to help securing the energy supply, securing the value chain, tackling the climate crisis, and establishing a sustainable security policy. And all this is very important. Again, you will see that space is part of it. And it's not for free. So therefore, sovereignty, which means the power to decide by yourself, is important, but you need all of this: safety, security, resilience, sustainability, and you need innovation. And therefore, a strategic sovereignty of Europe, of other parts of the world, means competence, cooperation, and innovation. Now let's look to space. Now I showed already the International Space Station. So what is the next destination? And Stephen Hawking said humans may need to leave the Earth because of nuclear war or climate change. At that time, when he was talking about that, there was no war really in front of us, but now we know that there might be a war, even a bigger war than we have right now, and climate change is already a fact. But I believe humans should not go to leave the Earth. We have to save our Earth. But if you think about leaving the Earth, where to go? So you have to look into the universe, and you might find a nice place which is called TRAPPIST-1, which is only 39 light years away, meaning if we send a message today, it takes only 78 years until we can get the first reaction from there saying, stay where you are. But this is a very interesting galaxy and universe over there, because the TRAPPIST-1 system has a sun and it has 7 planets. Now, astronomers calculated these the orbiting of these different planets, and they came to the conclusion that this is not a stable system. And it took interdisciplinary research to find a solution. And I will show you this solution right now. It were musicians who looked to it. And they looked to the orbits not just as orbits, but as music. They multiplied the orbit frequency by 212 million. And what they got is some sound. And now you can hear the sound, hopefully. The first planet, I hope you can hear it. Now the second planet. The third planet. I will stop at the fourth planet. So what you heard was really an harmonic distance of the different frequencies. And that was the secret behind the situation that was stabilizing this system. And therefore, the first message is interdisciplinary research is of utmost importance. Okay, now with our today's technology, to go to a system which is 39 light years away is just not possible. But there was Stanley Kubrick, who made a movie called 2001: A Space Odyssey, and he put his astronauts into hibernation. And by that, he could really make these big distances. But sometimes there was, and this was in the 60s, this movie, there might be some problem. And in this case, it was HALE 9000, the computer of the system. Again, remember that this movie was written in the 60s of last century. So it was an interesting solution. So it's not clear where to go and when to go. And of course, to go with Enterprise or something like that is nice. And there are some pictures that they are building it now in the northern part of Europe. But of course, as you know, this is far away from today's technology. And therefore, I believe that instead of going far away, the next very interesting part in our solar system is the moon. And I proposed what was called a multi-partner open concept. What it should means is many partners working together, and they are working together in an open way. So not deciding, first of all, who is doing what and where are the limits, etc., but an open concept. It's not a mission, it's not one project, it's a concept. And it was so difficult for me to convince people about this understanding of a concept. And then when I discussed it with some journalists, they said, Mr. Wörner, it's a nice idea. However, you cannot go to public with a narrative of multi-partner open concept. You have to find a better description. And therefore, the word Moon Village was created. And Moon Village means, again, it's the multi-partner open concept, but it's really open. It's open for international actors. It's open for human and robotic. It's open for public and private. It's looking to different activities up to resource management, planetary defense, and also being a stepping stone to go further in our solar system. And it's free and open access. And when I announced it, it was interesting, the reaction. So you see here from the American TV, European Space Agency eyes future Moon Village. So they were surprised that suddenly Europe is proposing something like that. But it's very clear why I did it. If you want to travel to the next body in our solar system, if you go to Mars and back, it takes you something like 2 years because of the different orbits of Mars and Earth around the sun. But if you go to Moon, you can do it in 1 week, as we know from Apollo 13, for instance. So to go to Mars, it might be possible in the future, but today we have too many problems which we did not solve. So there's a question of propulsion, the question of safety and security, the question of health, psychology, radiation, communication. So I believe really we should look mainly to the moon. And then some people were saying, no, it's possible to go to Mars in a one-way trip. So just going there and stay there. And I believe this is not a good idea. So Big Brother is watching you in that sense. You go to Mars, living in a can and die there. I believe this is not acceptable from an ethical point of view. And what we heard from the Americans was then, okay, in 2019, let's go back to the moon. And I met Vice President Pence in Washington, and I told him, Mr. Vice President, your idea is not a good idea. It's not good to go back to the moon. And he was very surprised. And I said, look, back to the moon means you are doing the same what you did already in the middle of last century. Would you really going back? Is that the right message? Or is it not better to go forward to the moon? And forward to the moon means not only there for a couple of hours or days, but to stay for longer for research and technology and to go there in an international framework. And that, from my point of view, is the best solution to go to the moon. And interesting enough, shortly after that announcement, also Jeff Bezos laid out his vision for a city on the moon, not only a village. So of course, the Americans are thinking always a little bit bigger than the Europeans. And also Elon Musk, who so far was always saying, no, we go to Mars. He said, no, the first step is to go to the moon. So I believe that really there is now a clear message that people around the world believe the next big step should be to go forward to the moon. And to go there is also something where we need the right transportation. And the Americans are developing the SLS, the new transportation launcher. And there is what is called the ESM, the European Service Module, which is based on the heritage of the ATV, the Automated Transfer Vehicle, and the capsule Orion. So it's really something where the Europeans are already on the critical path. And also for the gateway, which should be something like a bus stop on the way to the moon, is prepared and proposed and planned between NASA and ESA and other international partners. Of course, we would like to see also European astronauts on the surface of the moon. And the most important thing is there, as I said before, not to stay just for a couple of hours or days, but really to do research and technology development for a longer period on the surface of the moon, to really, as I said, also as a stepping stone for further missions into space. That means also we have to see to grow plants which we might need to survive on another planet, etc. And from a scientific point of view, of course, the moon is something like an archive, because it developed through an impact of another celestial body which impacted the Earth. But there are also people saying, let's use the far side of the moon to build big telescopes to look deep into the universe without all the radio waves we have on Earth. And there are also private companies already developing telecommunication systems for the moon and navigation systems. So it's really, the moon is really in the center of many, many developments. And also NASA has now developed, also they at the beginning were saying only to go to Mars. Now they are also saying, no, let's go to the moon and do some experiments on the moon. And the small Scandinavian company offered also some houses for the moon village. And I got also emails asking to become the Lord Mayor of Moon Village. For the future, if we want to go further, we need also, if we want to go deeper in space, of course, we need also artificial gravity. And you know that there is in several movies, etc., Interstellar, for an example, there are examples for that. So let's see, this is far away, but it may come. Now, you're asking me also about the launchers, Adriano. In 1981, the shuttle had its maiden flight, and of course, the shuttle was a reusable launcher, mainly, not everything, because the tank, etc., but mainly the main part, the most expensive part, was reusable. And unfortunately, with the two accidents, Columbia and Challenger, and it was rather becoming more expensive than thought at the beginning. This development stopped. Germany and the other European partners developed in the European Space Agency Hermes 1987, which was a tinier model of a shuttle. Tinier is in this very special idea, not only the question of size, but also the question of costs, etc., because that did not have the same loading capacity as a shuttle. However, it was stopped due to technical problems and financial problems. Now, the reusability of launcher, this is a very old slide of mine. It was at the very first trials of Elon Musk on the very left-hand side to do some tests. But at that time, I proposed also other possibilities, several of which were developed at the German Aerospace Center, with reusable boosters, and also on the right-hand side using parachutes. At that time, everybody said this is bullshit. But so today we know that the reusability of launchers might be a very important aspect. And there are nice ideas like, for instance, Skylon, which is mainly developed in the UK, or also the DLR Spaceliner, which is developed in Germany. Now, one has to have one very important argument for reusability. If, for instance, we would have something like Ariane 6 reusable, and we can launch it 10 times, that would mean, as we have something like 10 launches per year for an A6, that would mean we have only one new launcher built per year. This, of course, is not sustainable for the companies, one launcher per year. It's different if you have a company like SpaceX, but for the European system, it would be not feasible. So we have to see the balance between economy and ecology. Now, I would like to say a few words also concerning space safety and security. You know all these aspects. It's the solar flare, it's debris, it's asteroids, and all of this is very important. And my main focus these days is towards space traffic management. And space traffic management means, besides other aspects, especially technical solutions and regulatory aspects, and both have to solved and developed at the same time. So what we need for the future is space debris avoidance, so that there is no debris developing. We need avoidance of collisions, and we need deorbiting missions. And all of these are now developed in several different countries and different private organizations. But we have to see who is really doing the space traffic management overall. Is there not a contradiction between space economy and space ecology? The space economy means the cheapest launcher, the cheapest satellite. This may not consider the deorbiting, but space ecology is at the same time very important, because if we have only debris in our orbits, then we cannot really use the orbit. So we have to find solutions which combine both of these aspects. And therefore, we need also a message of how to avoid avoidable debris from the very beginning. And I believe that in future, each and every space launch system should really clearly define one of the following conditions: either having a redundant deorbit system on board, that's fine, but it must be redundant, interdependent, or to have a contract with a deorbiting service company that in case the satellite is not any longer functioning, then this company can bring down the satellite, or a deposit at trustful organizations like space agencies, like it is done, for instance, with bottles and other things in some countries. So people are asking sometimes for international treaty first, and I believe this is not a good idea, because it will take years and years and years. So national regulations might be easier, but it's even better if those people in those organizations who believe that it's very important to save our planet and our orbits, that they agree to do it. And even without agreeing, that they just do the action not to produce space debris, but to remove space debris. And there are in orbit servicing, there are several possibilities I now discussed. So it's the debris removal. It's also of refueling and life extension of satellite. So there are many, many aspects which are in this field. And I believe this is a big field also for private companies of the future. And that means for a space safety ecosystem, what we need are companies for space debris removal. We need companies for collision avoidance. They need some support by investors, but there are also customers, private and public, who should really pay for the service. So that brings me to the point: is the public sector and the private sector, are they in totally different worlds? And my hope and my idea was always to bring both sectors together. And you see here what I mean with it. From the left to the right, it's the picture shows from public to commercial activities. From up to down, it looks from national to global activities. So for instance, military security is for sure also in the future national. And then you have global things like near-Earth objects, space weather, and civil security can be done on a global scale. But there are several things in the center which can be done bilateral or multinational, for instance, with ESA, science, exploration, debris, navigation, civil Earth observation, space transportation, and communication. Now the world is changing, and partly these things are moving to the right. So this was a picture which I believe set sail something like 2 years ago. Now what we see today is that also science and exploration are going to the right. There are already private companies doing exploration, astronaut flights, etc., on a private basis. And there's also scientific private missions. For instance, you know this one, Axiom and SpaceX launched a capsule with privately paying astronauts. That means for me also the role of space agency is step by step changing from a pure R&D entity as in the past, becoming a partner in public-private partnership, a customer for the space companies, an enabler of space by giving launch sites, etc., and a broker by combining the different actors. And that means also for me that the public side at the end of the story will be a customer, an investor, and a broker. Now, this all together brings me to the very final words of my presentation. And this is, you know, that industrialists are talking about value change from raw material to product. They are talking about supply chains from supplier to customer. They are talking about innovation chains from invention to innovation. But there is one further chain, and this chain is very important for space. It's the chain of motivation. What I mean with that is seen in this picture. It shows Tim Peake and a small boy, and you see in the eyes of the small boy that he is fascinated by the astronaut. Fascination is a very positive movement in our brain. And therefore, if we are fascinated, we can do the next step, which means inspiration. We can be inspired. And if we are fascinated and inspired, we might go to a one step further, which is motivation to do something which we dream. And this is what people need. We need motivation for the future. So here it's written in German, but it's the same in English. Faszination, Inspiration, Motivation, or fascination, inspiration, motivation. So I thank all of you. And I hope that now it's clear what I mean with not going back, but going forward to the moon means for me much more just to go to the moon itself, but we have to go forward in our space activities, looking to commercial activities, looking to competition and cooperation at the same time. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Jan, for this very wide-ranged lecture. Yeah, it was very, very interesting. And I would like to welcome people from Atlanta, from Vienna, Austria, from Iceland, from the United States, from Austria, and from Alaska. And the first question is from Werner Grandl from Vienna, from Austria. Beyond a permanent station on the moon, we should develop rotating space stations with artificial gravity. And Leo, and maybe on the Lagrange points as next steps. Also it is not a question, it's a comment only. Yeah, Bernard, I know you are always full of questions. So
yeah, okay, yes. But yes, we go to the audience question.
Yeah, but the audience, yes.
But I have also a general question, which is, so how we make it happen moving forward and not backward? Because now there are threats, in particular linked with security, stability, conflict, needs from society. So how can we harvest this motivational energy and to get really all the actors on board?
Bernard, I'm an optimistic person, and I say it with Albert Einstein. I prefer to live in the future than in the past. However, you know, they made a survey, and 60% of the young people on the questions, where would you like to live, answered in the past. So this is really a dangerous message. And so it's up to us, to people like me, old people, to give the young people an opportunity to develop and not tell them what they have to do, but to give them the opportunity to do what they believe is the best, and not always saying we did it already, we checked it, it's not possible, it's only that way, and whatever. I always heard that during my life. What we have to give is really freedom, and to the young people the opportunity that they develop, and then they have ideas. We are just responsible to support them and not to give them the way where to go.
But on the area of the current situation, not the past, which is really very critical. So is there a way where we can really use space as a platform to build peace, to build science, and even to be a bit beyond some of the daily terrestrial difficulties?
Okay, still space is a possibility, a bridge over troubled water. We still have the International Space Station, also it's in a critical phase, but we have it. And we have also interactions with other parts of our tiny world. So I believe space can do a lot, and as soon as there is peace in Ukraine, maybe it's also the task of space, of people in space, to really rebuild this bridge also to Russia and to go forward. It's not time today, I know it. I'm not so happy about that, but of course we have to understand that there's a political necessity to it. But the ISS, for instance, is one possibility, and I hope we have more possibilities in the future.
But in this regard, I also would like to mention the Chinese, because they have announced that they want to build artificial space habitat, space hotel, and they have a rover on Mars, and they wanted to work together with other agencies, but they were refused to do so. And yeah, if we cannot work in space together, because this is an example for this. So yeah.
But you see, the young people are my hope. When I traveled around as ESA DG, I always made surveys with students, individual surveys, my own surveys, and I asked them, what would you like to have? A national agency, a regional agency, a continental agency, or a global agency? And believe it or not, the highest support of a global agency came from Chinese students, the highest by far. So therefore, I believe also the young people in China, they are open, and ESA and also DLR always had also some relation with China. And there is some discussion then about the human rights and all of this. But I believe, very simple. Of course, I have my values, my personal values and my European values, but first of all, my personal values. And if I see a person of a different value, is it the right way to isolate him or her? Or is it better to talk and to try to convince? So very simple. Huh? The answer is a rhetoric question. The question is a rhetoric question. So for me, it's clear. We have to cooperate, and only by that we can do something also for our values. To isolate, I'm not talking about the current war, Ukraine. I'm not. But I'm talking about general interactions with other countries. And of course, I can tell you that there are also countries which we all like, which do not have the same values as I have. For instance, capital punishment. Look to the world. There are many countries having capital punishment. Do we stop to work with them? No, and it's good not to stop. It's better to cooperate and then to work on common values.
Yes, if I can say something too. The point is that we have currently, as we wrote in a couple of newsletters recently, we have 70 wars on planet Earth going on. So we are particularly struck by the war in Ukraine because it is in Europe. And the people there are very similar to us. So it's like to see when we see in television those poor people going in the street with their few things trying to escape. It's like to see my mother, my son, my children. I don't know. So this is very upsetting for us. But however, the point is that we have 70 wars around the world. And this is, in my opinion, one of the symptoms of the closed world syndrome, that we are still thinking in a pre-Copernican philosophy that Earth is the planet and the rest of the cosmos is something different. While the philosophical current that we are trying to learn and to develop, starting from Plato to the Renaissance, to Giordano Bruno and so on, was saying different thing, that Earth is one planet, is a planet, not the planet, is a planet immersed in a cosmic ecology. Therefore, as we grown up in our history from one small region to other regions on the Earth's surface, there's no reasons why we cannot go outside and populate and settle the solar system. And that this would be a gigantic step, because the resources of the solar system are so big that it will be enough for trillions of people, for many hundreds of trillions of people in the next centuries and millennia. So, but the point is that we are living now in a very critical age. That is something like a break-even, because we are now 8 billion, and inside a closed system, we are already too many people if we are in a closed system. If we open the system and start to go outside, then we will be very few. And so our growth can restart in a very much more strong way. But the point, my point is that we don't have time. We have to accelerate the process to start the civilian space development, because I am afraid that when we already see the problems that we have now, that we are 8 billion, pandemics, climate problems, pollution, wars worsening, conflicts worsening. So let's think what it will be if we will be 10 billion and the system, the world system will be still closed. That will be an unbearable pressure. And we run against a possible civilization implosion, like Stephen Hawking also said, and other thinkers said. So I think we should do our best, and this is the mission of Space Renaissance, of our organization, to convince the people, the large public opinion, that going into space, expanding civilization into space is a good thing, and it is for the survival of the civilization. This is not such a clear concept in the public opinion. If you talk about space in Italy, for instance, even the journalists are quite ignorant, and they treat space like a funny thing for entertainment, not as a necessity. So, but okay, I don't want to make another another speech. Okay, just to communicate to you my concerns and what we are trying to do. A couple of things. Space debris, coming to the concrete thing, from philosophy to policy and to concrete thing. Space debris are not only a danger, but they are also an opportunity, because it is a value that costed a lot to put it in orbit, and now they are there unused. So the real turnover will be when we will start to reuse the debris in order to build space infrastructure. That the business of space debris will start. And when the business starts, it is when things really start to go ahead, to grow, because of course we have to put it in terms of security and safety. It is right to put it in these terms, and to call for public action to resolve this problem with avoiding new debris, with the orbiting the satellites and all of these things. But we also have to try to develop a strategy, business plans, and all what it takes to make entrepreneurs to think about recovering space debris and reprocessing and reuse them, because this will be the start of the business. Hello?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Okay.
I just show you this picture because it says here recycling.
Yes.
Assembling.
I like it. I like very much this picture because it is an overview of what it could be, the orbital industrialization, the orbit industrialization. Because yes, we have to go to the moon and we have to go to the Lagrange points and to Mars, etc. But however, maybe the very first goal will be to master our orbit from LEO to GEO, and to make clean is one of the first things. When you want to habit a house, what you do? You go inside and you clean it. Okay, so space debris is for sure one of the things. The other thing that I am a little bit not sure what is the reality is the issue of reusability, of rockets reusability in the European industry. So should we think that EADS launch vehicle, Astrium and Ariane are heavier than the American ULA? Because the American ULA already understood that if they don't start to think in terms of reusability, they will be out of market. And they are making, they made, I think, Lockheed Martin or Boeing, I don't remember what of them, made an agreement with Blue Origin in order to buy reusable engines.
But Adriano, look to Airbus. Airbus has something like 8,000 people. Huh?
Yeah.
Now, if they, that was my example. If they build 10 launches per year, they can pay each and every of their workers. Now, if you have a reusability with 10 times a year the same rocket, 10 times each rocket, then you need only one launcher per year, a new launcher per year. And that means a dramatic reduction of either the people or the one launcher is as expensive as 10 launchers. Both is not a solution. So therefore, the industry has to change. You cannot just say build reusable launchers.
For sure. Yeah.
The industry has to change. This is the same for Avio. It's the same for Airbus. Yes. So and the market, the European market, is different to the American market. And we know that launchers have a captive market, where you cannot sell your launcher. This is different in the US. They have a much bigger market, therefore they are in a better situation. But the Europeans are also buying American launchers, which makes the system not much easier.
Yes, I understand all of this, of course, but in the same time, we cannot. How can I say? To keep on having a ludist position, because this is.
I totally agree with what you're saying. I totally agree. But
progress, you know,
when I told them just start with reusable boosters, it would be very, very easy. And they told me, no, we cannot do that. It's not worthwhile. And I said, even if it's only 5 million less, it's a good thing going forward. But Airbus denied. So I can tell you a lot of stories in that direction.
Yeah. Okay. However,
some questions in the chat. Werner Grande is asking, who are the political or ideological opponents to space exploration and space colonization?
Okay, this is different from space exploration and space colonization.
Yes.
So in space exploration, it's a question of definition also. When we say exploration in Europe, we mean all types of missions which are not communication, navigation, or Earth observation satellites or scientific missions. So when we in the ESA system, for instance, astronaut flights are exploration. In the ESA system, also a mission to Mars and Moon or whatever is also exploration. So exploration is not so easy to convince people and politicians about exploration, because you can always argue with science. What is much more difficult is colonization, because if you're talking about colonization, and this is a discussion Adriano also mentioned, then it's rather difficult, because today to go to another planet in our solar system would not be really a nice living. You would live in a can on Moon or Mars, wherever. You would not live there like on Earth. And therefore, this is not the way where colonization would work. Colonization would only work if you go to a body where you can live as on Earth. Therefore, I mentioned TRAPPIST-1 just as an example.
I think artificial space habitats will be the solution for this until we find a habitable planet. Here's another question from Super Sparkleton. Let me try rephrase. When will ESA lift the passport requirements and welcome astronaut or certain position applicants who live, work, contribute to the society in Europe, but for some bureaucratic reason don't have an EU passport? It is really heartbreaking to hit some glass ceiling like that, while we are talking about inclusion and joining forces. Please.
Okay, I'm not any longer ESA Director General. However, the boundary condition for that is the ESA Convention. And it's not an EU passport which is required. It's an ESA passport which is required, meaning you know that we have 22 member states in ESA, and not all member states of the EU are member states of ESA, and the other way around, not all ESA member states are member states of the EU. So for instance, like Switzerland, UK, and Norway. So in quotation marks, an ESA passport is necessary according to the convention of ESA. So you have to change the convention of ESA. But the convention of ESA always looks to geographical return, geo-return, which means number one, money-wise, a country which spends 20% for a project is eligible to get also 20% back of the projects to its country. And also the convention says that the staff should be proportional to the contribution, more or less. It does not say proportional, but should be linked to the amount of money a country is giving. So that's a very special system, but it is like that. So therefore, there are some limits.
It's understandable, for me, somehow. Bernard, I saw you had some questions.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. Thank you. I wanted to come back to the very beginning, actually, of your talk, where you talk about the values and the village, because, of course, the village, for me, it's also resonate with the global village of Mark Luan over Earth. And so we have been talking a lot about Europe. We are just 5% of the inhabitants of Earth. But how can we get all the Earth villages benefit from what we do? So through inspiration, you see, but also through education, through giving opportunities. So yes,
very simple,
how can we
Werner.
really get the whole Earth village
very simple
involved?
By partnership. This is in accordance also with the ESA convention. There is no problem. So when I was Director General, we had very intensive cooperation, for instance, with South Africa. South Africa has a totally different setup of space. And I had meetings with all the other African countries. And of course, it's possible for ESA. And that's the same as for Japan, for Canada, for the US, for all countries of the world, for Australia, So cooperation is the key. Cooperation is the key, and by cooperation, and this is, by the way, also the basis of a village. How is a village created? A village is created that people come together who have different interests, different competences, but
skills,
by working together, they can do more for the community. And this is what the world is about. So working together with Australians, with Africans, with whatever countries makes it much better.
Yeah, and in Space Renaissance, that's a dimension we want, in particular, to have an inclusive dimension where, brilliant minds from other continents can get opportunities, and we can get some proactive program where, through cooperation, they have a chance to be educated to space, and they have a chance also to contribute with their own, local conditions as well.
Yes, and I just want to add that Jan is an honorary member of Space Renaissance, and we are very happy to participate to our Congress in 2021. He is giving this lecture today. He will participate to the Space Festival in Berlin in July, earlier July, and we will be very, very happy if he will keep on being our ambassadors to many people that all around the planet that can come and join and collaborate for the Moon Village and for the other initiatives that we need to boost. So, okay.
Yeah.
And I will do so.
May I ask also a question regarding space debris, because it's a topic that matters me a lot. I was thinking or discussing with a friend, and he said maybe people who put some satellites into space have to have an insurance because the debris will be there, and there's no way so far how to collect it, to recollect the debris. And it is dangerous as well for astronomy, but more for space travel. And and you said, the national compromise should be made. But
no, I said one of three conditions have to be fulfilled, in my opinion. Number one, you have on board a redundant, independent deorbiting system. If you have this, fine. Or if you don't have it, you have to have a contract with a deorbiting company saying, I have a contract with company XY. In case my satellite is not any longer working, then this company will bring it down. Okay, fine. Or number three, like for instance, we have in Germany with the bottles, as I said, and cans, you pay a deposit at the very beginning. You give a deposit to an agency and saying, okay, in case I don't bring the satellite down by myself, the agency can use this money and do it. So this is at least one step. The other step which you are mentioning is, which is much more complicated, is if there is a collision of two satellites in space producing more space debris, who is responsible in that case? Now, no wonder I will have a discussion with an insurance company tomorrow.
Yeah, so that's very interesting.
It's tomorrow. It's tomorrow, and it's a big company, I can tell you.
It's interesting. But how will you bring all the, because Elon Musk has his satellites, and it is really a huge system what he has on space, and I don't know. He is like, so I will it and I do it. So he don't ask for permission. I don't know. I'm sure he has a permission for this, but
you see, from the responsibility, you have two responsibilities. You have one is the company, and the other one is the launching state. So it is, if he gets a permission to launch, then this means the country from where he is launching takes also some responsibility. It's not that he can do what he likes. He can do it, but if the United States of America does not stop him, then the United States of America have partially also the responsibility. And we had, by the way, a nearby collision of Starlink and Aeolus. It was very, very dangerous. And so it was ESA who made the move to avoid the collision. But this is for sure, especially with the discussion of mega constellations, it's really getting a more and more difficult problem.
Yeah, and but there's who is coordinating this? If China says, and now we have the Arab Emirates, we have India, Japan, we have so
nobody
many
is regulating it overall. You are right. The frequencies are regulated, but again, the launching state has a responsibility. So if for instance, China is launching, they have a responsibility. That's for sure.
Who is coordinating this?
Space traffic management is not coordinated so far globally.
However,
this is my point, because this has to be regulated globally.
You don't have to regulate car driving all the time. There are rules, but you can, for instance, if you have a car which is not really perfect, you can start with that car. But if you do an accident, then you are responsible for it, right? If you have a car without brakes, you can go on the street. Of course, nobody will shoot you down at the door, so you can go on the street. But that means you have the responsibility, and you might be punished for that.
Yeah, sure. However, the big constellation of the Starlink by SpaceX are very small satellites. And I heard that, I'm not sure if it is true or not. However, they say that when at the end of their life cycle, they will simply naturally go down in the atmosphere.
Yeah, but this takes sometimes much too long. If it takes, so for instance, the rules say 25 years, right? So if 25 years with 40,000 satellites, that's not acceptable. So if you have a very low orbit, then you can trust the gravity and you can trust the atmosphere. But if you are in a higher orbit and you know that ESA has a very dirty satellite flying around, it's Envisat. We have to say it, Bernard.
Yeah.
It's there, and it's as big as a bus. Huh? It's really a big one, a big stuff, and it's dangerous for sure. And I said, let's get it down, but nobody wanted to follow me. So this was one of my.
His aim is to give internet to everybody in the world, to make the communication easy for everybody, even for people that don't have infrastructures for the internet. And this is a good aim, but of course, putting some.
But don't believe that Elon Musk and all these guys have just good things in their mind. They want to make money.
Of course.
Sure. No, sure, I'm sure of that, but
okay.
I'm not against that. Let me say, I'm not against that, because making money is producing Starship if they allow him to do it, because now they delayed another month the orbital launch. It was foreseen for May, and now it is foreseen for end of May. The green light of the FAA on the.
But I don't believe that he is financing it by the money of Starlink. I think he is financing it by the contracts with NASA.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
But this is one of the things I like of Elon. Let me say, I am a great fan of Elon Musk, and I think he's a pragmatic mind, and he understood that our dreams that space tourism will open the frontier that we had in 2010, it was not a good strategy. He is pragmatic, and they say, okay, I want to go to make something disruptive, and they make reusable launchers. And he went to take contracts by NASA, and by means of this contract, he is developing the first fully reusable launch vehicle. I think this is the most important thing that should happen this year.
And you know the consequences. He now is not producing any longer Dragon capsules. Huh? He stopped the production of Dragon capsules. So it's a very logical step. So people who worked so far producing a Dragon are fired.
Okay, I didn't know this thing, and yeah, this is bad, of course.
No, but that's a logic. Maybe he's using them for other purposes, but it's a logic. So I'm in favor of reusability, 100%. One have to have a system which is really sustainable in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that easy.
Okay, in the same time, waiting for a full sustainability, we could our civilization could lose the launch window to start stepping to the star. Yeah. So I am.
But looking also, Adriano,
I am combated. I am.
Do you think that it's? Do you think it's correct to use 1/3 of the fuel to go back? Do you think that's a good solution? 1/3 of the fuel is used to.
No, the good solution is to produce fuel in space. Then you can have fuel in space.
That's a possibility. Or you come back with a winged body. That's the other possibility.
And until when we cannot produce fuel in space, I think we have to pay the price of that, bringing more fuel in order to come back, because we have to develop this technology.
But why not having winged bodies? Winged bodies. The shuttle was perfect in that sense. It has some other
complex
problems.
technology. So
okay.
But in the long term, we will have also.
I'm just a philosopher. I'm not a scientist.
Yeah. In the long term, we will have a spaceport on the moon.
Follow you very much.
And then it will be very efficient to land on the moon and to use fuel from the moon. But it's a bit down the stream.
But Bernard, I'm too old for that.
You can
with Starship on the moon, maybe, and then you create fuel.
Yeah.
Maybe you can spend your retirement with Bernard on the moon. I'm really happy that we will meet in Berlin, and I would like to invite our audience to come to Berlin to our Space Renaissance Art and Science Festival. Look at our homepage or at our website, and you will get all information. And I'm happy that Jan, thank you for this really interesting lecture, this interesting discussion, and I'm happy that you will come so we can go on with our discussion. And Bernard, as well, Adriano also will give a lecture, and I will talk about art in space and launch our art project. So I would like to close this evening. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Forward to the moon with Jan. Space Renaissance.
Thank you very much, Sabine. You did a marvelous